Flooding is either the worst tool you can use in the dog world when it comes to socializing dogs that don't have the skills to do so, or it can be the best thing you can do with a dog, but it all depends on the context. Exactly. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have control, if you don't have a good read on reality, if you're not aware of the states you're inducing, if you're not aware of what you're trying to achieve. And how do you achieve that? The worst thing you can do with a dog is to throw it into situations where it has to face other dogs. Of course, this is completely different if, on the other hand, your readings are good enough. If you know the desired outcome and the process is safe, it's the best way to help a dog socialize. City dwellers with few or no dogs will struggle to advocate for controlled flooding due to lack of tools. For the dog, it's the best thing you can do to help a dog become capable of socializing. Obviously, a person who lives in the city and only has one dog or doesn't have any dogs at all is going to find it really hard to advocate for controlled flooding because they don't have the tools for it. And this is great. What you cannot do is try to convince the population that it is because you do not have the tools or do not know how to use them. No one can have them, and no one is prepared or qualified to use them. In our case, and in the case of people who have many dogs like us, today we have more than 67 dogs. We are forced to do controlled flooding so that the dogs have the ability to coexist with each other and then be able to enjoy themselves. Knowing how to be in the company of other dogs. This is what you see in our videos all the time. If we didn't expose shelter dogs with no social skills to others in a controlled way, it would be impossible to have, as seen in our videos, 30 to 60 dogs together. This is crucial for those of us with many dogs. 30, 40, 50, 60 dogs together. So, for people like us who have a lot of dogs, we're required to do flooding so that the dogs can share living space. They can share living space. We showcase our work without any shame, without any fear. We're really calm about the work we do, and in fact, people know us for being able to handle groups of totally different dogs, among them more than 30, 40, 50, or 60 dogs. And this is impossible to achieve if, at any point you don't decide to expose the dogs to other dogs. And from a professional standpoint, we understand that if the problem is that a dog doesn't know how to socialize, for any reason, it doesn't matter what, those reasons are, to the point where it might be 2, 3, 4, or 5 years old, and it doesn't have the ability to socialize with any other dog. But if a dog is at that point, from our perspective, it seems like a pretty clear logic based on first principles that should be easy to understand. To socialize dogs, expose them under optimal conditions. Dogs and humans understand future interactions. It's about being exposed. At some point, under the best metrics and context possible, when doing it for the first time, so that both the dog and the humans who will have to guide that dog in future socializations know. First, that it can be done. Second, that they experience and are aware of the process and what is being attempted. And third, help them understand and read the reality of the canine world so they don't get confused by what other people might try to project. And third, help them understand and read the reality of the canine world so they don't get confused by what other people might try to project. That is fear, helplessness, or any kind of stress that isn't positive for the dogs. That said, let's look at a couple of examples. One with a 2-year-old wolf dog, that their handlers contact us because it can't socialize with other dogs it encounters. And because at home, where he lives with other dogs, at one point he opened up the skull of a greyhound that lives with him with a bite. What you're about to see is the process of socialization and controlled flooding that we're going to narrate step by step. What we're trying to achieve and why we make real-time decisions about whether to bring out more dogs or not for this experience. We just saw how the socialization ended with Archon, who is a 9-month-old American wolf dog. And here we're going to see how he socializes with Gala, who is our working mastiff. I also want you to pay attention to the relationship I have with the dog through the leash, even though you can see here that the position of the leash is completely vertical to his neck. There's no tension at all, and there's no pulling at any moment. Here you can see that he has all the abilities to socialize with dogs completely intact. At this point in the session, I already know the dog I'm working with. I know the abilities he has, and I know he's going to be able to socialize with almost any type of dog because he's really fully capable. This is a matter of leash handling, and it's about projection, connection, and energetic synchronization. Here you can see how Gala backs away at an optimal speed, and he does the same. And here I'm going to leave this sequence without narration so that high-level people or professionals can enjoy it.
Today you gave Max a chance. Here, we're going to see how he socializes with Caden. We see that the vibration frequency and energy is just a bit higher. Caden is our dog, quote-unquote, teacher, Ease. The one who will really validate the information we've been working with so far. With the dog we're working with. And you see how he perfectly knows how to maintain himself like Archon, the 9-month-old puppy. He approaches, then backs off at an optimal speed, and like that, he stays completely connected with me. At this point in the session, I've already decided to bring out dogs with a higher frequency. Here, you see how he creates a bit of space and movement so that he has the ability to get rid of the peak of excitement caused by seeing a bunch of dogs that are at a higher level of excitement than he is. Here, we're going to see it, and we'll watch it twice later so you can really appreciate what's happening. Here you see how in these kinds of situations, if you have control and the ability to, at a given moment like right now, make a correction so that the dogs your dog is socializing with. Change state and move away. That's when you can really allow yourself to work on controlled flooding. If you don't have this ability, then it would be a mistake to approach so many dogs without, I repeat, the necessary skills to prevent the worst case scenario from happening. Here you see, like the ability the dog has to stay in a state and connect to a level of calm that's high enough. Like not becoming the center of attention among a bunch of dogs that are at a higher level of excitement than he is. It's what's really going to divide his ability to socialize in the future. In other words, this is the reference we're looking for. The dog has to know. Projecting calm, even if there are dogs that are at higher peaks of excitement, he is not going to become the center of attention. If he keeps projecting calm, he'll become invisible to the other dogs. Here, we can see that he's completely ready. Just like when he's in motion, he also needs to relate and interact with the other dogs. And if you have any doubts about whether this has impacted his ability to socialize with other dogs, well, here you can see some footage where he would have previously lunged at any of the dogs you can see. And right now, he's starting to develop the skills to stay in a state where it's not necessary to start those pre-attack sequences.